Hey guys, welcome to the third lecture on the Juniper tree written by Brothers Grimm. Now in today's lecture we'll be discussing the falling action of the story. But hey, do you know what falling action is? Now it was Gustav Freytag, a German playwright, who introduced this concept known as the Freytag's pyramid, in which he tried to give a structure to plays. And he said that every play or every plot line of a story has an exposition in which all the major characters are introduced. The place is set and we'll get a whole lot of descriptions about the characters, their characteristic traits, etc. in the exposition stage. And then there is an inciting incident. An inciting incident means something would happen, something untoward, something pleasant, something unpleasant would happen, and this would be a momentous thing, this would be of greater importance. So an inciting incident would happen which would lead to a rising action. So you are now gripped. Once the inciting incident is introduced, you are now gripped into the story and it leads to the rising action. So slowly the action moves towards the climax. So it moves towards the climax. Now the climax is a point at which something horrible might take place or something extremely good might take place. But usually in stories, the climax is a point in which something horrible might take place, truly horrible might take place. And then it would lead to the falling action. So what will happen once the horrible deed is done? Then what will happen? That's what the falling action is all about. And towards the end, it ends in resolution. Okay, so this is how a play's structure goes as far as the plot is concerned. So play, by play I mean drama. So this is how a drama structure goes, but this is also equally applicable to fiction as well. So in the exposition stage, it is like an introduction in which all the major characters will be introduced. Then there will be an inciting incident, something important, something crucial will happen in the story, and it grabs the attention of the readers, and the readers feel like they need to move forward with the tale, they need to read the tale, and it leads to rising action. Slowly the action moves forward, it's rising. So all kinds of events take place and slowly we are introduced to the characters and their motives in rising action. And there appears a climax. The climax is a stage in which something horrible or terrible would happen, and then comes the falling action. Of the falling action is like denouement. It's also another technical term. So it is a denouement in which, so if at the climax something horrible happened, then it had to be resolved in some way or the other, right? So the falling action shows that gradual transition towards the resolution. Okay, towards the resolution. The horrible incident or the guilt-ridden incident slowly moves us towards the resolution, towards the end of the play in the falling action, and then comes the resolution. So let's take the Juniper tree for that matter. This story has also got the structure. In the exposition stage, we were introduced to the major characters like the rich man and his pious and devout wife. And she prayed for a son, but they were childless for a long time. And finally, she began eating berries out of a juniper tree which was there in their front yard. And then she conceived, and then she gave birth to a child. On childbirth, she died. So the death of the mother and short mourning period of the father and the sudden marriage of the father, who is like a new father. Okay, the rich man has become a new father, and now he immediately gets married to another woman. So this is the inciting incident. Now we know that something is about to happen. Now it slowly mounts up to rising action. So in rising action, we saw that the second wife or the second mother was not at all welcoming to the first child born out of the first wedlock. So she was not at all happy with the child who was as white as snow and as red as blood. So she, in a way, tried to eliminate him. She wanted to get a hold of the inheritance. She wanted to have it all to her daughter, and she wanted to give it all to her daughter. So that was the rising action. She plotted against the son. the primogenitor, as I said in the previous lecture. And what she does is she treats him miserably. She ill-treats him, and finally what happens is that she kills him. That is the climax. So the horrible deed is done. That is the climax. Now we reach till the climax, and now we have the falling action, which would eventually lead to the resolution of the story. Now in my first lecture we were discussing about the exposition. In the second lecture we discussed the rising action and climax. In this lecture we will be focusing on the falling action, because this is very important, because the falling action is very peculiar when it comes to the story, and we'll discuss the resolution. Though it is only brief, we will discuss the resolution in yet another lecture. So we shall move on to the falling action. The juniper tree began to move. Remember, Marlene had buried her brother. In the previous lecture, I had told that Marlene had buried her brother. So previously, she had buried her brother, and then the juniper tree began to move. The branches moved apart. So it's as though a miracle is going to happen, right? The branches moved apart, then moved together again. So it's a vivid visual imagery. The branches moving apart and then moving together again, just as if someone were rejoicing and clapping their hands. Just see the imagery there. The branches of the juniper tree. Hey, have you seen juniper tree, by the way? Now in my thumbnails I had posted the picture of juniper tree, but for those who never noticed the thumbnails, here is the juniper tree. So this is the huge juniper tree that's there. There are many varieties. Some look like Christmas trees as well. So this is the juniper tree. So just see this, their branches itself, it's as if their hands are looking towards the sky. That's how juniper tree is. So if you consider the branches of the tree as its hands, then the branches are looking, it's held upwards, as if it's held upwards towards the sky. And now the branches moved apart and then they moved together. Now it creates an impression of rejoicing. When you rejoice, it's this expression that you give, right? Your hands or your palm will go up when you rejoice. So like that, the juniper tree was rejoicing. It felt like juniper tree was clapping its hands, and it said that his hands, curious, it's not its hands but his hands. At the same time, a mist seemed to raise from the tree, and in the center of the mist it burned like fire. So the tree was there, and from the center of the tree a mist came into being, and from the center of the mist something burned like fire, and a beautiful bird flew out of the fire singing magnificently. So suddenly a bird flew out of the fire singing magnificently. Now curiously enough, the bird is not mentioned in detail, or what kind of a bird it was, that's not mentioned in detail. In many of the illustrations, or in many of the earlier illustrations of the juniper tree, the bird was depicted as a phoenix, a bird who is a symbol of rebirth. So when a phoenix bird comes to the end of its lifetime, it burns and it dies, and from the ashes a new phoenix bird is born. Similar to that, here from something which burned like a fire, which came within the juniper tree, the bird flew out singing a song magnificently, and it flew high into the air, and when it was gone, the juniper tree was just as it had been before. So this was a miraculous thing. So it's not mentioned in the story that anybody witnessed this. Sometimes I think that Marlene might have witnessed it, because then it's said that Marlene went away or moved away to the house. So maybe Marlene might have witnessed it. But it is so magical. The description is so magical and it's so vivid that it captures the attention of the audience. It can also be considered as a climax to the story. So again, from the center of the mist that came from the tree, something burned like fire, and a beautiful bird flew out of the fire singing magnificently, and it flew high into the air, and when it was gone, the juniper tree was just as it had been before. So it's truly magical. Once the bird escapes from the juniper tree, or once the bird flies away from the juniper tree, the tree returns back to normal. The tree returns back to its normal form. And the cloth with the bones was no longer there. And then there was no cloth, and then there was no cloth with bones. Remember, Marlene had kept the bones in a silk handkerchief, and she had placed the bones beneath the juniper tree. So the bones was not there, and even the cloth or the handkerchief, the silk handkerchief that Marlene placed, both were missing. Marlene, however, was happy and contented, as if her brother were still alive. Suddenly, Marlene felt happy. The moment this magical thing happened, Marlene felt happy. She felt contented. Remember, she was the only person who grieved the death of her brother. It was she who salted the stew with her tears. So she was the only person who was sad about the death of her brother. And now Marlene felt happy and contented, as if she felt light. And she felt like her brother was still alive. And she went merrily into the house, and she went happily into the house and sat down at the table and ate. Then the bird flew away and lit on a goldsmith's house and began to sing. So what happened to the bird? The bird flew away and she went to a goldsmith's house and she began to sing. The bird began to sing. So it might be a he, because the bones of the boy is not there. The silken cloth that was there is not there. So it might be a reincarnation of the boy. Don't you think so? So there is an explanation to it. Let's take a look at it. Now, the boy's death begins the transformation. As a bird, he symbolically transcends injustice to work towards harmony. So this is what is going to happen. The boy's death leads to transformation. He was wronged. He was killed. So he wants to seek vengeance or revenge. And he wants justice. That's it. More than revenge, he wants justice. And in order to transcend the injustice that was meted out to him, he takes the form of a bird. Now a bird sings in harmony, right? A bird sings beautiful songs. Maybe he wanted to restore the harmony within his family. That's why he took the shape of a bird. Birds sing harmoniously. Similarly, this boy who was transformed into a bird also is going to sing his tale. Another thing is that once Marlene witnesses the magical events that happens around the juniper tree, or once Marlene puts her brother's bones to rest, she feels happy. In the earlier passage too, it was mentioned that she stopped crying once she laid her brother's bone to rest. Once she gave proper burial to her brother's bones, she stopped crying. So there was an end in grief, because she had given him a proper funeral. But then she felt happy once the resurrection had taken place. So once the resurrection happens, she feels happy. And she went merrily into the house and sat down at the table and ate. So the resurrection of the boy as a bird makes Marlene happy. And she seeks redemption through her random act of kindness. So what was a random act of kindness? Though she feels like she was responsible for the death of her own brother, she feels that she must give him a proper burial. Though she was an accomplice in her mother's crime, she helped hide her mother's crime, and she helped her mother in preparing the stew, and by keeping mum to her father. She was an accomplice in every way to the mother's crime. Still, she wanted to make things right. That's why she took the bones of the boy and buried it under the juniper tree. So this is a random act of kindness, and she seeks redemption. She seeks salvation to her sins from burying or giving a proper burial to her brother. Now let's move on. And then the bird flew away and lit on a goldsmith's house and began to sing. So the bird flew away and it went to a goldsmith house and it began to sing. My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister Marlene gathered all my bones, tied them in a silken staff, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I. So that was the song. My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister Marlene gathered all my bones, tied them in a silken scarf, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I. So see, the kind of song that she sings or the bird sings. Since it's a bird, I have this tendency to call it as a she. But the song that the bird sings, it has got significance because it reveals the major plot line of the story. It reveals the horrible or gruesome crime which was meted out to the boy. The goldsmith was sitting in his workshop making a golden chain. And when he heard the bird sitting on his roof and singing, the song seemed very beautiful to him. He stood up, but as he crossed the threshold, he lost one of his slippers. So see, the song was so enthralling that the goldsmith, who was busy in his workshop making a golden chain, moved towards the bird. He was so attracted by the bird song that he forgot to put his shoes. So when he heard the bird sitting on his roof and singing, the song seemed very beautiful to him. It was enchanting, and he stood up. But as he crossed the threshold, as he crossed his door, he lost one of his slippers. However, he went right up to the middle of the street without a slipper. See, so he was so enthralled, he was so captivated by the song. And he went to the street with only one slipper and one sock. He had his leather apron on, and in one hand he had a gold chain, and in the other his tongs. So usually goldsmiths carry tongs. It was using the tongs that they melt gold or any other metal. So they have a tong in their hands always, and they wear leather aprons so that they won't get hurt by the melted or molten gold or molten metal. So these are all safety measures that he has. And the sun was shining brightly on the streets. So it might have been a really hot day, but still he went right to the middle of the street and he was not wearing any socks. He was not wearing any shoes. He walked onward, then stood still and said to the bird, "Bird," he said, "how beautifully you can sing. Sing that piece again for me." So he wanted to hear that song because he was engaged in his work. He might have been a very good goldsmith for that matter, because he was so engrossed in his work that he was not able to listen to this song. But now he wishes to hear the song again because he just heard a few lines of the song and he wanted to hear that piece again. It was so melodious. "No," said the bird, "I do not sing twice for nothing. Give me the golden chain and I will sing it again for you." So this singing a song in exchange to something was very common in the olden days, especially in the times in which the Grimm's brother may have compiled the story. So this kind of songs sung for the purpose of entertaining people on the streets was known by the name Christy Paris. So it was a form of advertising. It was like a form of jingle. The song of the bird in one way or the other resembles a jingle, right? It feels like we are listening to a jingle. So similar to that, there were market songs in the olden days and it was known as Christe Paris, and it was a form of advertising. If someone wanted to sell their wares, they would sing about their wares and then they will attract the people, the customers, the prospective customers, and then they will be able to do their business with them. So it created an atmosphere of exchange as well. For you listen to the song, you buy my product. Or you may listen to the song which describes about my product and then you may buy the product. So the song in exchange of something else. was very common at that period, and it was unlike the performances which were made in churches at that time, or in courts and palaces at that time, which was refined and which catered to the upper class audience. So whenever something caters to the upper class audience, then it should be censured, because upper class audience doesn't like very commonplace words or slang words. They don't like commonplace or common marketplace talk, etc. They don't like marketplace talk. They like very refined talk. Okay, so the song which was sung on the marketplaces, like the Chris de Paris, was familiar. It had a freedom, it was frank, and a familiarity too. It was familiar to the public, it was familiar to the common public, and it gave the singer a freedom of speech. He could sing about anything and get something in return for his song. So this was very common at that time. Okay, so please remember this point because it is important. So that's why the bird asked for something when the goldsmith asked him to sing the song. He walked onward, then stood still and said to the bird, who? The goldsmith. Bird, he said, how beautifully you can't sing. Sing that piece again for me. No, said the bird. I do not sing twice for nothing. Give me the golden chain and then I will sing it again for you. Oh, very scheming or very business-minded bird this might have been, right? It is asking for a golden chain in return for his song. The goldsmith said, here is the golden chain for you. Also, in those days, gold was not such an expensive metal. So the goldsmith gave the golden chain to the bird. Now sing that song for me again. And then the bird came and took the gold chain in its right claw and went and sat in front of the goldsmith and sang. My mother, she killed me, my father, he ate me, my sister Marlene gathered all my bones, tied them in a silken scarf, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I. And then the bird flew away to a shoemaker. So by singing the song and by taking whatever that was there within the merchant, the bird moves forward. Okay, and it sings to the next merchant that he sees. So this is very peculiar and curious. Again, the bird has chosen a marketplace to sing her song, or to sing its song. So from now on it's its. So the bird goes to the marketplace to sing its song. And it is very peculiar because at the beginning it sang the song to the goldsmith, and goldsmith belongs to the wealthy merchant class. Okay, so he belongs to the though he is a merchant, he is very rich. That's why he is a goldsmith. So he belongs to upper ladder in the society. So he is a wealthy businessman. So he occupies a middle position. He must be wealthy. So the topmost ladder among the merchants. So he belongs to the wealthy merchant class. And then moving on, we see that the bird sings to a whole lot of other merchants as well, such as the shoemaker. Now the shoemaker belongs to the lowest rung of the society, because the shoemaker might not be able to make as much as a goldsmith, right? So economically, the shoemaker might come just below the goldsmith. Then the bird flew away to a shoemaker and lit on his roof and sang. So the bird similarly moves around from one roof to another. Okay, it is written here lit. I think that this is a typo. It might be sit. Okay, this is taken from Pittsburgh Edu, pitt.edu, but this is wrong because I think that it is sit. Because it doesn't make sense. In the beginning itself, I felt like this does not make sense. So please take note, this might be sit. So then the bird flew away to a shoemaker and sit on his roof and sang. Again the same song. My mother, she killed me, my father, he ate me, my sister Marlene gathered all my bones, tied them in a silken scarf, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I. So again, see, the bird here is singing its song. First she sang the song to the wealthy goldsmith who belongs to the topmost ladder of the merchant class. Then she sang the song to the next in ladder, which is the shoemaker. And then the shoemaker listens to this. Bird itself is choosing people belonging to different strata of the society to tell its tale. Another key characteristic feature is that when the child was alive, the child never said anything ill about its or his stepmother to anyone, even to his father. But once he is dead, he wishes to make the unjust just. So he wishes to sing his tale so that the people might know what had happened to him. So this is very tragic, isn't it? The boy who is reincarnated as a bird wishes to tell his tale, and he is choosing people from different strata of the society so that in the end, the entire society or the entire village would come to know about the gruesome death of the boy. And through this song, he gets the closure that he always wanted to get. That is, he always wanted to tell about, or he might have wished to talk about the atrocities meted out to him. But he never got a chance when he was a child. But once he becomes a bird, he is able to set things right. He is able to sing about the atrocities that is meted out to him. Okay, so that happens. So again, this is again a point to ponder, to think about. Now the shoemaker too heard the song. He ran out of doors in his shirt sleeves and looked up at his rooftop and had to hold his hand in front of his eye to keep the sun from blinding him. So here again there is a reference to sun from blinding him. So it might be a symbol of truth. Sun shining upon you is also a symbol of truth, can also be equated as a symbol of truth, right? The bird here is trying to sing its truth in broad daylight. That is the significance. So in broad daylight he wishes to tell his tale. You might be familiar with the Malayalam phrase, right? വെളിച്ചത്ത് കൊണ്ടുവരും, നിന്റെ കള്ളത്തരങ്ങൾ വെളിച്ചത്ത് കൊണ്ടുവരും എന്ന് പറയും. വെളിച്ചത്ത് കൊണ്ടുവരിക എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ എന്താ? To bring it into broad daylight. So that is precisely what the bird here is doing. Through its song, it is bringing the truth into broad daylight. That's why each and every merchant is blinded by the sun. And another version of it is that it is too hard to digest the truth. Again, the bird is singing about a mother who killed him and about a father who ate him. So these kind of stories where there is a mention of patricide, that is the killing of the father, or matricide, the killing of the mother, or the killing of the children for that matter, is too gruesome, and it is not at all pleasant to hear. So people won't be happy to hear about these stories. That's why it is blinding them. And the truth is hard to digest. "Bird," said he, "how beautiful you can sing." Then he called in at his door, "Wife, come outside. There's a bird here. Look at this bird. He certainly can sing." So remember, all that the people hear is its song, is its melody, and not the lyrics. That's why they ask the bird to sing again. So they can only hear the melodious voice of the bird. That's why they ask him to sing again. Okay? And then he called his daughter and her children and the journeyman. Now the journeyman is not the name given to a man who undertakes a journey, or a traveler of sorts, a person who is after wanderlust or anything like that. Journeyman is a name which is given to a person who is just a person who is just above the apprentice. An apprentice or a novice is the beginner in trade. So if a person is learning trade, for example, we have a shoemaker. So the shoemaker might be the head of his trade, and the shoemaker will have a novice or a beginner apprentice whom he trains to become a shoemaker. So the novice is a beginner, like a fresher. So the novice or the apprentice is a beginner, and just above the novice is someone called a journeyman. Now journeyman is a skilled worker who comes just above the novice. So he is neither a novice or a beginner, nor a beginner. He is a skilled worker, and he comes just below the merchant or the skilled shoemaker and above the apprentice. So he called upon all the people who were there with him. And they all came out into the street and looked at the bird and saw how beautiful he was and what fine red-green feathers he had. So again, red-green feathers, it's again a mention of the bird is given. And red-green feathers, again, it gives out a hint that this bird might be a phoenix, because phoenix are also presented with red-green feathers. Okay. And how his neck was like pure gold. So the first description of the bird is given. It had fine red-green feathers and it had a neck which was of pure gold, and his eyes shone like the stars in his head. So the eyes shone or glittered like the stars. Now the shoemaker lets his entire family and friends know about the story. Now it's there, right? They like to know about people. They like gossiping or knowing more about others, which was not there in the case of the goldsmith, because goldsmith is a person who works hard day and night, and he is rich. So there is no mention of his family. There is no mention of the workers there, because he is a person who works all alone when he creates gold ornaments. But when it comes to a shoemaker, he has got a whole lot of workers to work under him, and then he has got a family, children and grandchildren, and he calls all of them up and then listens to the song. So he is giving the bird a wide audience. Okay. And even they have a maid. So maid again belongs to the lowest rung of the society, and all these people come together and listen to the bird song. So again, there is an element of marketplace here, where people belonging to different strata of the society come together to listen to the song of the bird. So the bird is getting reach. Now if the bird was present today, the bird might have posted its song in YouTube or TikTok, and it might have become famous. And here, since it was not like that, it had to go around places and sing songs. And the shoemaker asked the bird to sing the song again. "Bird," said the shoemaker, "now sing that song again for me." "No," said the bird, "I do not sing twice for nothing. You must give me something." Again, asking for something in return. The boy never asked for anything from his father or from his mother when he was alive. Even when he was offered something, he was highly skeptical, because he knew that his stepmother never liked him. So that was always there, where the boy never felt the need to ask for things, but now he is asking for things. There might be a reason for it, right? The boy might want to reward some people. That's why he's asking for gold. Then it is going to ask for something else, right? "Wife," said the man, "go into the shop. There is a pair of red shoes on the top shelf. Bring them down." The wife went and bought the shoes. "There, bird," said the man, "now sing that piece again for me." Then the bird came and took the shoes in his left claw. Remember, he held the gold chain in his right claw, and now he is holding the red shoes in his left claw. So his hands or his claws are full. Like his hands are full, his claws are now full. Now he cannot hold anything else, right? So a bird who has gold chain on one claw and some shoes on the other claw. Now again, there is a willing suspension of disbelief, because how can a bird after all carry all these things and then fly? Now again, "There, bird," said the man, "now sing that piece again for me." And the bird began to sing. And it collected the red shoes and flew back to the roof and sang, "My mother, she killed me. My father, he ate me. My sister, Marlene, gathered my bones, tied them in a silken scarf, laid them beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I." When he had finished his song, he flew away. in the right. So he always finishes a song and flew away. That is, he is not there to give more answers, or he is not there to entertain his audience. He just wishes to tell his tale to the entire world, and that's why he tells his tale and moves forward. It's not like he tells his tale and then stands there ranting on and on. It tells its tale and moves forward. That's a very peculiar feature that the bird has. In his right claw, he had a chain. In the left one, the shoes. He flew far away to a mill, and the mill went clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. In the mill sat 20 millers' apprentices, cutting a stone and chiseling chip-chop, 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 and the mill went clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. See here, for the first time there is an accompaniment to the music of the bird, right? When it enters the mill. So mill is unlike the workplace of the goldsmith as well as the shoemaker. Both of them worked closer to their homes. In fact, some of them worked within their homes. But mill is a totally different place, and around 20 or 30 people would be employed in a mill. And here, similar to that, here this is a mill, not your ordinary mill in which you go and powder your rice flour and etc. This is the old mill that you have. You might be familiar with it if you have played Farmville or anything. So this is a mill. And usually what happens is that this windmill would go on, and it would churn, or it would grind the grains. So again, there are two kinds of sounds that are referred to here. One is the clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack sound, which comes from the grinding process. When you grind, this is the song that clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. Again, it is an onomatopoeia, because here the sound denotes something. It creates an effect, right? It is a word. Clickety-clack is a word, but it creates the impression of a sound. It's like a sound word. And then again, there is another sound which is there, which is the sound of millers creating millstones. So in a mill there will be millstones, and the millstones will be moved to grain the wheat. So the millstone, you might be familiar with people who come to your home saying Ammikalle gottano, etc. So Ammikalle is our version of millstone, but for the English it is different. Now let me give you an example, and you might be familiar with this, right? So you may listen to it. So this is how a millstone is made, okay? And towards the end it would look something like this. This is a grinding stone, and this is not our ordinary grinding stone. This type of grinding stones you can find in markets in Delhi, where they have this type of a grinding stone, and the pestle that they use for this type of a grinding stone is also different. It's triangular in shape. Instead of our Ammikalle and the pestle that we get along with the Ammikalle, they have a triangular shaped grinding stone for grinding. Now this is somewhat similar. So this is our Indian grinding stone again, mind you, but there is something called a millstone, and I will be showing you a picture of a millstone as well, so that you might know what it is, because it's important for you to know about all these things. Now you may listen to the sound of millstones. So here, wait. This is the song of the millstones. So there was a slight mismatch between the sound and the video, but still I think that you got it. So this is the sound of the millstones. So you know what a millstone is, right? So this is a millstone, and this is how it looks, and there is a central thing over here which goes on and on, right? And this central thing over here is important in our story because there is a reference to this small hole that is there on the millstone, and we shall take a look at it. So this is something which we can see in a miller's place. So in a mill or in a miller's place, you may find people who are grinding millstones as well as people who are grinding wheat. People who are grinding wheat as well as people who are chiseling millstones. So the apprentice who the miller employs, the apprentices whom he employs, it is said that the miller had 20 apprentices, right? So these are all again beginners or novices in their professions. They are freshers in their professions, and their sole job is to cut the stone and chisel it, like we have seen in the video. And when they chisel, it's like chip chop sound will be there. And when the wheat is being grinded, then it creates a clickety clack kind of a sound, as you have just heard. Now these sounds provide a background to the song of the bird. So till now the song had no accompaniment. Now it breaks into a musical when all these sounds come into being. When the sound of grinding and the sound of chiseling the stone comes together, it creates a musical effect. Then the bird went and sat on a leaden tree which stood in front of the mill and sang, "My mother, she killed me." And then one of them stopped working. So there were 20 apprentices, and once the bird began singing from the branches of a tree, one of the apprentices stopped working. So the first line that the bird uttered was, "My mother, she killed me," and one of them stopped working. "My father, he ate me." Then two more stopped working and listened. So two more people, it's multiplying. So two more people stopped working and listened. "My sister Marlene." Then four stopped working. "Gathered all my bones, tied them in a silken staff." Now only 8 were chiseling. So there were 20 and now only 8 were chiseling, and all others had stopped working. "Laid beneath them." Now only 5 were working. The juniper tree. Now only one person was working. "Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I." So now that is how it happened. So when the first lines were sung, the first man, one of them stopped working. When the second line was sang, the second person stopped working, and 2 people stopped working. And when the third song was sang, 4 more people stopped working. And then it said that when the next line was sang, only 8 were chiseling. So only 8 were engaged in the job. All the others began to listen to the song. When it said the word, "Gathered all my bones and tied them in a silken scarf." So that is that very important line in the entire thing, right? "Gathered all my bones and tied them in a silken scarf." So it captures the attention of everyone, and now only 8 of them were chiseling and laid them beneath, again moving towards the end of the song. So only 5 were working now, the juniper tree, and now only one was working. "Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I," and only one person was there who never listened to the song because he was busy working. That last one stopped also. That last one person also stopped and heard the last words. So the last person was able to hear these last words, "Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I." And he said, "Bird, how beautifully you sing. Let me hear that too. Sing it once more for me." "No," said the bird, "I do not sing twice for nothing. Give me the millstone and then I'll sing it again." See, this bird also wants a millstone. Now usually people don't carry millstones because there is a popular phrase which is carrying a millstone in your neck. Now carrying a millstone in your neck has biblical connotation. Now usually people don't carry millstones, but people who are guilty of committing a grievous offense or a grievous sin would carry millstones. It is as if you feel that like you are guilty, then you cannot move on with your life. You will forever be haunted by that guilt, and the guilt would fall like a millstone. നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു പാപഭാരം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ പാപഭാരം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് തന്നെ ആ ഭാരം എന്ന കോൺസെപ്റ്റിൽ നിന്നാണ്. So if there is something that you have done wrong and that guilt is there within you, then it will be hung from your neck like a millstone. So that millstone is an image, and millstone is also another image when it comes to Bible, because it's also said that millstone has got another significance, because millstone is the place where wheat turns into, or wheat grain turns into wheat. So you have the grains, right? The wheat grain, ഗോതമ്പ് പൊടിയാവുന്നത് millstone വെച്ചിട്ടാണ്. So the wheat grain turns into wheat when you are using millstone. So it's also like a rebirth to the grain, right? The grain was in one form and it's take a rebirth into another form. So that has got that rebirth significance as well when it comes to this particular story. So again, the bird is asking for a millstone to carry. Okay, so no, said the bird, I do not sing twice for nothing. Give me the millstone and then I'll sing it again. Yes, he said, if it belonged only to me, you should have it. Because if it is a mill setting and a whole lot of people are working there, you don't necessarily own the things that are there, right? Even if you're working in a firm, you don't own the chairs and furnitures and even the equipments that are there in that firm, right? So likewise, the miller said that it does not belong to me. If they say that it belongs to me, then I'll gift it to you. And the other said, yes, if he sings again, he can have it, because they again are enthralled by the song. So they also asked him to sing. Then the bird came down, and the 20 millers took a beam and lifted the stone up. So they took a large stick, they took a beam, the fulcrum that's there, and the beam was used as a fulcrum, and then they lifted the stone up. You he ho, you he ho, you he ho. So again, these are words which are uttered when you do some hectic task, right? So in Vallamkali, these kind of words will be produced. Apo, erro. Similar to that, they have this yo he ho, yo he ho, yo he ho, which is whenever they are exerting pressure and then moving something, usually people come up with these songs or these sounds, and this also creates a musicality. It also provides a background to the bird song. So it becomes a cappella sort of a thing towards the end, when the bird sings a song accompanied by the chiseling sounds, accompanied by the grinding sounds at the beginning, and then it is towards the end, the millers themselves accompany or sing along with the bird. The bird stuck his neck through the hole and put the stone on it as if it were a collar. Again, you are reminded of the way in which the boy died. Remember, the boy was beheaded by his stepmother, and she propped him up and tied a scarf around his neck. So it is also symbolic. And then again, this boy puts the millstone on its neck. So literally, he was killed from neck above, so he carries a millstone in remembrance of it. Okay, he wants to teach someone a lesson. He wants to show that someone was guilty. So he put the millstone, and through the hole that is there on the millstone, I just show you the hole in which they put the grain. So through the hole that was there in the millstone, it was put like a collar by the bird. Oh, remember, or just imagine a gold chain on the right claw, red shoes on the left claw, and on top of it carrying a millstone. It's impossible, right? It is highly improbable and it is impossible, but still, hey, this is a story. And then there is something called willing suspension of disbelief. Now this concept was put forth by Coleridge, a famous poet, and he said that when you are reading a literary work, you need to keep your belief somewhere aside. You must suspend your thoughts of reality. You must not think that, oh, this won't happen in real life. This is not real. Because if you think like that, you won't be able to enjoy a song. You won't be able to enjoy a poem. You won't be able to enjoy a good fairy tale. So there is always a need to suspend your disbelief. That is, you know that a bird is not going to carry a millstone. ഒരു ബേർഡ് ഒരിക്കലും ഒരു മിൽസ്റ്റോൺ കഴുത്തിലിട്ടുകൊണ്ട് നടക്കില്ല. ഒരു കല്ല്, ഇത്രയും വലിയൊരു കല്ല് കഴുത്തിലിട്ടുകൊണ്ട് നടക്കില്ല എന്ന് നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം. അത് നിങ്ങളുടെ ഡിസ്ബിലീഫാണ്. നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം that this is not going to happen. But you need to suspend, or you need to keep that disbelief away for some time. Only then will you be able to enjoy the story. So that is why there is a willing suspension of disbelief here when it is said that the bird put the millstone on its collar. So again, it took 20 millers to lift the stone, and that too using a beam, and the bird stuck his neck through the hole and put it as if it were a collar. And again it makes us remember of the death of the boy. Now the boy was beheaded, and his head was propped up on his neck, and a kerchief was held to hold it all together. Again it makes us remember of the sad plight of the boy. Again the boy, or the bird reincarnated, sings, "My mother, she killed me, my father, he ate me, my sister Marlene gathered all my bones, tied them in a silken scarf, played them beneath the juniper tree. Tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I." So this entire lecture contained the song. Sorry for my bad singing, but still, this is how the boy communicates his tale. Now usually whenever a person goes through suffering, his words won't be expressed, right? There is no vent to his emotion, there is no vent to his sufferings. He won't be able to say anything. But here the bird is able to express himself, is able to vent or give voice to his emotions, which is again something which we don't get in real life. In real life you don't have this concept of virtue being rewarded and vice being punished, but we can always find instances of it in fairy tales. Now when he flies through the town and sings out the cruelty of his family, the bird's ability to remember what the slain boy experienced and formulate the memory into narrative allows the boy to tell his story in his afterlife. So the boy is being reincarnated as a bird, but the bird is able to remember it because the bird wants to bring justice to the poor boy who was killed or who was slain. That is why he is able to sing the story as a narrative, as a plot, as a storyline. His action shifts the story from one of forlornness to hope of justice to the slain boy. So when you hear the tale being repeated to a large number of audience, we feel like the boy is going to get justice because the entire village folk will come to know about the death of the boy now. So till now, if at the end of the last lecture you felt dejected because the boy was killed, now you feel like there is hope. No, somebody would come and discover how the boy was killed and he would get his justice. So if you felt forlorn in the beginning, now you would feel happy. Now, by the time his act of singing becomes an oral record of the murder. So once you sing, once you record something, it becomes a valuable evidence. So his song becomes an evidence or a record to the murder. So in real life too, sometimes a person might be killed, but the perpetrators of the crime will be caught in camera, or the perpetrators of the crime, some way or the other, they will be punished, right? So there will be some blind witness to it. There are many crimes that happen these days in Kerala, many of which were solved just because there was this unnatural or supernatural element within those crimes, whereby something was recorded and there was a recorded evidence of the crime. A similar thing happens here too, where the singing of the bird becomes an oral record of his murder. By the time the bird finishes singing, roughly 30 people from all levels of the economic stratum have heard the story. Remember, you have the 20 people from the miller's place, then you have around 10 people from the shoemaker's place, and then you have the goldsmith who heard the tale. So around 30 people from various walks of life and from various economic stratum has heard his tale. Owners of small businesses, their families, employees and mill workers, everyone heard the tale. The song is widespread enough throughout the general population that the bird's message will not be quickly forgotten. So that's there. There is an element of propaganda to it. It becomes a propaganda, right? It becomes a story that will be retold by many people. So once if something, or if crime happened and people talk about it, then it would get significance, right? So, for example, recently a dog was dragged by someone down the road and people began to talk about it through social media and through various forums, and it was brought to light. And the crime was brought to light and the perpetrator was punished. So that is the way in which every crime is solved. Once it gets widespread popularity, then it will be solved. So once it gets widespread popularity, it's not easy for the perpetrators of the crime to go scot-free. They will be punished. They won't escape from the law. So that's what happens. The song is widespread enough throughout the general population that the bird's message will not be quickly forgotten. The inclusion of the members of community from various socio-economic background is additionally a characteristic feature of marketplace atmosphere. So here the brothers Grimm wanted to bring a marketplace atmosphere in order to create or in order to let more people know about the tale. Now remember, you can make a comparison of this story with that of the Beauty and the Beast. In that story, when Bella is taken by the beast, the people in the village, they are gathered by her fiancé and they storm towards the castle. So that is what happens when a mass or a mob comes to know about the truth behind the tale. Then there is a chance for justice. And here in the case of this boy, we feel that this boy would get his justice, because now many people have come to know about the gruesome incident. Now he will get justice, and we feel like that, right? So I think justice will prevail. What do you think? On that note, I come to the end of this lecture. Take care.